At this point, we will call to order the special meeting, August 17th, 2022 of the King George County Planning Commission. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you participating. For the record, we do have a quorum. My understanding is that Mr. Myers is en route, should be here in a moment. At this time, if we could, I'd ask that anybody who can please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance as we get started. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Williams, would you lead us in invocation, please?
We bow our heads. Heavenly Father, once again, we give you praise and thanks, dear Lord, for the grace and mercy you provide us throughout the day, dear Lord. We ask that you guide our hearts and minds as we go about the county's business, give us clarity in our decisions and the things that we hear, dear Lord. We ask that you bless this hearing, dear Lord. Give it your grace, give it your mercy. These and other blessings we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you all. All righty. Next item on the agenda is public comment. So we're going to run things just slightly different tonight. We've got a lot to cover, so we're going to veer from our normal pattern. For those of you who have participated in the past, we're going to do something just a little bit different tonight, just to be able to get everybody in. So if you haven't done so already and you want to speak, please sign up with Miss Sierra Harvey outside. She'll assist you if you have any questions. So we are at the part of the meeting where the public comment period is going to be open. If anyone wishes to address the commission, please come forward, state your name and address, and limit your time to 3 minutes. We would ask that anyone who has a public comment for the entirety of the Birchwood project and not individual cases, please come forward now during this portion of the event. We will talk about the individual ones as we get through it, but because we're going to have 7 separate public hearings tonight, correct? Ms. Hall, is that how we're doing it? All right. And again, 3 minutes, please. We'll have a timer, and we can't cede our time to anyone else. And if you would, just please, looks like we already have a taker. So go ahead, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. My name is Mary Baker. I'm at 7618 Musco Place in King George. Okay. I have a few questions regarding these requests for rezoning. It is my understanding that the House of the Virginia delegates recently passed House 206 that requires if more than 10 acres of farmland is going to be disturbed for a solar project, that mitigation be in place. And my question is this an end around?
Okay, ma'am, we can't answer any questions at this point.
Well, I'm just, that would be okay. My comment is this feels like it is an end around to get past what Virginia has already said is a detriment to our communities by disturbing our farmlands and our forests.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Baird, come on.
Bob Baird, 15316 Kings Highway, King George. All I have to say that as a taxpayer and citizen of King George, I strongly agree that we need to increase the commercial and industrial tax base of the county. Also, I agree that the west end of the county, with its proximity to the rail line, the western end of the county and its transportation up 95 and potential river access and proximity to the industrial park makes it seem like a natural place for increased industrial facilities. However, I am concerned, having reviewed the documentation, that offering a blanket approval for an industrial zoning without further definition is like buying a pig in a poke. I really believe that we need to know more specifically as how that land is going to be used. From a tourism and historical perspective, we need to look at the visual impact from the highway as people enter our fair county, both from the perspective of the visible industrial facilities and screening of the view of the beautiful homes along the river. 2, we need to consider the potential environmental impact from chemical, dust, water runoff, and light and sound pollution. The potential impact of increased traffic loading on primary and secondary roads during construction and during business operation. Also, we need to consider what additional services that the various facilities to be located on those properties may need from the county. And lastly, what is the actual amount of green space that's going to be forever lost to our county and turned into concrete and asphalt? There's a lot of unanswered questions. I think we need more specifics before the board acts in either direction.
Thank you, Mr. Baird.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Fairfax. I live at 623 Kings Highway. And I apologize right off the bat. I thought we were going to have to address this 244-page document in 3 minutes because the applicant requested that this be dealt with as one whole package. So the public really wasn't able to prepare properly because we were thinking we have 3 minutes to say everything that we can say about this surprise project. I also feel a little bit like I'm riding a moped at a Harley convention. And I don't know if you feel that way, but if I put you on the spot right now and I asked you, based on their plan for what they're going to do there, do you know? Yet we were asked in a week to read a 244-page document without a team of attorneys and then appear before you and not waste your time and give you a cogent argument that supported our position in 7 days. A 244-page document prepared by a team of attorneys that did not even tell us specifically how the site, how it was going to be used. I mean, you read that. I think it's on page 144. It doesn't tell us anything. So how can we address the issue? So I would like to respectfully ask you that if you don't receive substantive answers in the applicant's presentation, that you call it a night and that we all come back when we have something to discuss so you can really hear the viewpoints of all the citizens of King George County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fairfax. All right.
Didn't want to jump ahead of you. Good evening, folks. My name is Clarence Dobson. I live at 11159 Friedland Lane, right in the middle of where this project is proposed to go. I've lived there all my life. I'm 81 years of age. I walk on all of the ground that surrounds my home. Matter of fact, I worked on the farm where the power plant was located for Mr. Gilbert, and before him, for Mr. Oh, what's his name? I can't think of it right now. But anyhow, and I've also worked on the Marie property, helping Bud Marie back years ago. So I know all about all of the property. The thing that I hate to see is mature forest land cleared. And I understand this project will clear a lot of forest land. You can't put a solar panel in the middle of the woods. So if you're going to put a solar panel up, you got to have clear ground. This project looks like it's 746 acres in total. I would ask you, how many acres of that is mature forest land? How much of it is wetlands? Birchwood Creek runs through my property, runs along, and I said just below Birchwood Power. So anything they do on that hillside is going to, without proper care, is going to wind up in Birchwood Creek. That goes into the Rappahannock River. I understand we're looking for alternate ways to produce energy, to reduce fossil fuel use. But at the same time, you're talking about clear-cutting forest land that does a pretty good job of clearing our atmosphere. And we'll lose all of that if this project goes through. And I think with all the commercial, industrial land that this is requiring, that we just destroying 746 acres of mature forest land and some of the best farmland in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right.
I'm Todd Fairfax. I live at 623 Kings Highway. I'd like to pose a question to you. I don't expect your answer because I know how this works. Let's say you go to buy a house and you negotiate with the selling realtor, and they say, we're going to contain all of the details of the contract. Just trust us, sign here. Would you buy that house without having seen what the details of the contract are going to bind you to.
Thank you, sir. If we wanted to go on the list, we've got J.M. Dobson, or ma'am, if you'd like to go, please feel free.
I really don't have a lot prepared, and I'm going to tell you, first off, if anybody wants to know, no, I'm not a resident of King George County. I grew up in King George County. I moved here when I was 5 years old. My parents' property is surrounded by this tract of land that is going to be supposedly
Excuse me,
rezoned.
Ma'am,
What was your?
could you start with your name and your address,
Well,
please?
I am so
I'm
very sorry.
It's all right.
My name is Gina DeBernard.
Okay.
I live at 206 Stonewall Drive in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I moved to King George when I was 6 years old or 5 years old. We built the house that stands on the property that is surrounded by this tract of land that may be rezoned. And when I say we built it as three girls out in the yard with my father, laying cinder blocks, laying a foundation. And when we did the addition, we did the same thing. And when we had to pull it up and make adjustments, we used pickaxes to dig it out. No, the property doesn't back up exactly, but that property is property where we established a home there. I come back every week. I live close by. I am speaking on behalf of my parents who can't be here today. And I am just saying that I'm very disappointed that the county has sent in, or the county and the Birchwood Corporation has proposed that we change that land from agricultural to industrial. We've got a 244-page document that I have gone through numerous times in the past couple of weeks, or the past week or so, and I am totally appalled by the fact that we've got a 244-page document, and nowhere in that document does it specifically say what the industrial use is going to be for that piece of property. It blows my mind that nobody can answer the question for me. I have talked to two members of the Board of Supervisors. I have been told by county officials that because they have signed disclosures, they can't tell me what's going on. And I just think it's ridiculous for you all to be expecting county citizens to go in and accept a blank slate. It's going to be okay. And I think you owe it to the citizens who have grown up here, people who have been born here, people who've moved in, people who have chosen this place as their home because of the rural nature of it, to suddenly come in and say that part of the county is now going to be industrial, and do it without letting the county have a decision in what is done there. The Board of Supervisors are elected officials. The county people elected them. I hope if the vote goes to them, and I know the vote is going to them, regardless of what your decision is going to be, because my mother got a notification today in the mail that the meeting is going to be held in 2 weeks for the public hearing for the Board of Supervisors. And I immediately called one of the supervisors and asked, why are we scheduling a meeting for the Board of Supervisors when the Planning Commission hasn't even yet voted on this? It builds a sense of distrust between the citizens and those powers that are making the decisions when you are not being upfront and open about what the plan is for those properties. We've got a sign entering King George County that says, if I'm not mistaken, welcome to King George, gateway to the historic Northern Neck. Are we going to need to change the sign to say, welcome to King George, home of Mount Dumpmore and a solar farm, or whatever it is you all are planning to put in there?
Man, we're trying to get traction on that tonight, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it would be nice if you all had some transparency and let the people and the citizens of this community know what is going on prior to you making a vote and making decisions and pushing things through. And I will actually
that's-
say
that's-
bulldozing things through without citizen input.
And that's why we're all here tonight, but thank you. We appreciate it. All right. If we wanted to go by the names, we've got another, I think it was TM Dobson. That's what it looks like. Sir, if you'd like to, you were next on the list if you'd like to speak.
I live at 5185 Heritage Drive, Dahlgren, Virginia. My question to you, has the Chesapeake Bay Act been considered in all of this? That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. All righty. Hannah Jenkins. You good? Okay. Daryl Brettenstein.
Good evening. My name's Daryl Breitenstein. I live at 1320 Kings Highway. And the first I got word of this was the letter that I received about a week ago. And from that letter, I have no idea what's going on. But I do know that since I've gotten 5 letters in total so far, I know something is definitely going to happen. And I'm kind of worried that it seems like nobody will tell us exactly what the plan is. If you want comment from us and you want our support, tell us what the plan is. If you're not going to tell us what the plan is, then my answer is I don't want it. And I imagine most of my neighbors don't. Because you're trying to tell us you want to do something, but we'll let you know after it's done. That doesn't seem fair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mary Baker. Okay. Tamitha Callender.
My name is Tamitha Callender, and I live at 481 Bully Hill Drive, and I'm here to speak about my grave concerns about the proposal of rezoning the agricultural land to industrial land. We are aware that the corporation involved had the landowners involved sign non-disclosure agreements so that they could not discuss why the land is up for rezoning. When the mega dump, AKA waste management, was constructed and we were promised there would never be contamination from the landfill, since then the landfill has been cited on numerous occasions for breaking that promise. The people in this area live on well water. That is our only access to water. And the county has not protected our only access to life-sustaining water. We pay taxes here, but we also pay the brunt of the environmental damage done from these so-called green projects. Rumor is that the new proposal is for a mammoth solar panel industrial park. Solar panels are fragile, made of mostly cheap glass and aluminum, but they also contain toxic heavy metals. Even the newer versions, when they are damaged or just fail to work or are retired, end up in landfills just like ours, where they degrade until toxic materials leach into our soil, which can contaminate the very water that we drink, cook, and bathe in. Again, we're all on wells here. This is not smart, it's not safe, and without legislation that guarantees that the thousands of panels that will be recycled properly off-site, there is no sane reason to even start this project. The reason they aren't recycled is because it's cheaper just to buy new, and our government has decided that it's not worth it since this industry is already heavily subsidized by our tax dollars. Please, please vote no on this proposal.
Thank you. All right, Linda DeShazo.
Hi, I'm Linda DeShazo, 10420 Lambs Creek Church Road. I don't think I have anything new other than what's been said, but I'll just repeat some key points. First of all, I'd like to say that I do believe the property owners in King George have the right to do what they want to do within the law with their property. I don't want anybody to say, I don't want big business. I don't want the farmers to get ahead. I don't want anybody to have any of their rights taken away. Not the case. Same thing with business. I know the county needs business, but we need to be cautious of the businesses that we bring in and know the intent of what those businesses are. That leads me to a narrative statement that I have from the documentation. This is dated August the 3rd. I know it has been updated. This may have changed, but I'll just read to you what it is. The property may strategically develop for industrial uses that are compatible with the surrounding area and further the economic and future land uses of the county. No hands are going up. I've been told it's a solar farm. It's this, it's that, it's this. Are you going to go? Are you going to vote yes? Are you going to vote no? Well, does my vote count? No. Do my thoughts count? Yes. That's why I'm here. And my thought is, how can I make a decision on something I don't even know what it is? I do have a short example. I come to the county and I'm presenting a building permit. I'm presenting a building permit to build a dwelling. And I'm also telling you that it fits within the constraints of the zoning coordinates. And that's it. Paid my fine. I'm done. Are you going to come back and ask me how many bedrooms, how many baths, where's your well, where's your septic? You're also going to ask me what delays would be if I submitted a request like that. In my mind, it's almost the same thing, totally different scale, but I think you can see what I'm talking about. I also understand from reading the information that we're not only talking about changing existing property from from A2, A1 to industrial, that we're also considering a change requested by a company to change our industrial zones. I don't know if you can make that question, or make that answer. I know you can't, but that's in my mind. If I read the information right, we'll be changing the industrial zone and moving it from Birchwood all the way up to Fletcher's Chapel. With a good side note, it's going to skip the piece in front of the elementary school. It's all good because that's not going to be in the industrial zone. So are we making a change to our county zoning ordinance and our comprehensive plan, changing our industrial areas based on the request of one company? I'd also like to make the comment that it would be beneficial that when we have these meetings, I'll make it really quick, that instead of listing all the properties by name, which is great because someone's doing research as I've tried to do, and it's been very difficult for a variety of reasons. If anyone would like to talk off topic, I'm glad to do that. But if you could also include a map. I challenge you to take a map, draw out the current industrial projects that list in that area, draw out the proposed properties that are being bought, sold, leased. I don't know, you tell me. See what's left. You'll have people like the Dobsons, the Devenards. Those are the ones that are speaking tonight, so I'm using you as example. But you'll also see what I call heritage families in King George County. They're not heritage farms, but they're the people that have been here 50, 60, 70 years. What about those people? They're surrounded. What are you going to do? What's the value of their land? If whatever comes, comes.
Thank
That's
you,
all I
Linda.
have to say.
Thank you. There's one more name. I can't read the name, but I can read the address, and you can please step forward. 2259 Kings Highway, or maybe 2250 Kings Highway. All right, no takers. Anybody else in the audience that would like to speak at this time?
Good evening. I'm, excuse me, Amy Murrah, and I live at 7372 Columbia Drive. And I came here tonight to find out what's going on. I only knew about this because I see 15 to 20 signs on the road when I drive. I am not aware of the plan. I did not get a 244-page to read or a letter. But I'm a citizen of the county who has watched our county's strategic plan non-existent, bring in dollar stores, auto parts stores, and tobacco stores in the last 17 years. I want to know, one, what is this going to do for our strategic plan and the support of the businesses that are currently, and to bring in businesses that are going to benefit our county and our county residents. Two, I have watched my water bill in 17 years go up 350%. What are these proffers going to do? Are they going to support the businesses that nobody seems to know that's going to be put on in these industrial sites, should that be approved? And is it going to help this water plan or the water treatment system that's been failing for years that I continue to pay for because it's not getting fixed? So my 3 questions to you are, 1, why isn't the entire county aware of what's going on? And did we have more information sent out to the residents? What are these proffers going to do in support regarding this strategic plan for the long term? And what is going to do to support our current water or sewer situation that the residents not unwell are currently dealing with? Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Hello, my name is Reagan Anderson, 9515 Fletcher's Chapel Road. I have been a resident at Fletcher's Chapel Road my entire life. I'm 28 years old, but my family has owned property there for over 100 years, and they have farmed it. Like Sheriff Dobson, my property pretty much backs up to where the dump is and where this will be, I assume, put in place. We need to think about this side of the county. We already have a dump. We already have an elementary school to think about. Think about all the chemicals and those children. I was a former archaeologist. I've been on solar farm projects. I know what they look like when everything is timbered, when all the solar panels are put in. It is not a pretty sight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else in the audience here that would like to speak? If not, I'll defer to, oh, sir, come on up.
Good evening, gentlemen, and everybody here. My name is Dr. Rod Johnson. I'm a medical director at Patient First. I moved to King George in 2015 to start my journey here in Northern Virginia. There's only 2 reasons why I moved to King George, and that's everybody in this room and what I drive through. I pass the cornfields. Every summer I look forward to them, growing from a seed to the top. And I came in late and I apologize for that, but what I just heard from this young lady, it breaks my heart. I don't want to move. I love the people of King George. And that's one of the big reasons I stick around this area, is to help everybody in this room. It is my pleasure to stay in King George, and I love traveling through the county. I think King George is a very important county. I think one that should stand up above all counties of all of Virginia. I don't want to become another county of Northern Virginia. I want to be in King George. I want to stand out. I want this county to be strong. And from hearing from this young lady who's been here over 100 years, it is my honor to stand next to her. And I appreciate your time talking and listening to me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All righty. Last nickels for anybody on the floor? Yes, sir.
Wesley Musselman, 2216 Kings Highway, which I'm right across the street from some of these proposed general limited industrial uses, which y'all won't answer what it's going to be for. So why are you asking people here tonight to give their opinion on something you can't answer any questions about?
All right. There's anybody else on the floor? Yes, sir.
The gateway to our by putting it up solar.
Yes, sir.
A little low for me. Hi, my name is Ryan Bortner. I own 1445 Kings Highway. My family has owned the Gissington Plantation, or what most people around here know as the Marie Farm, that's directly across from Birchwood Power Plant between Route 3 and the Rappahannock River. My question, as someone who is an archaeologist, is have you guys done any sort of archaeological surveys on any of those tracts of land through that area? Because one thing is, I know my next door neighbor's home, Spring Hill, was owned by James Monroe's uncle. And there is documentation that he played there pretty much every summer. Between our farm at the county line and what is now Hop Yard are three major Native American settlements that show up on John Smith's map. That's the type of history you guys are losing if you don't take a good look at this stuff. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, sir. All righty. If there's no one else, I'm going to defer to Mr. Dines. Do we have anyone online that wishes to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have Sean Fogarty.
Mr. Fogarty, the floor is yours. Mr. Fogarty? Mr. Fogarty, if you wish to speak, please do so.
Muted right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Fogarty, I think we got you on mute, or you're on mute.
There we go.
All right, sir, go ahead. All righty. We're gonna move on, sir. Anybody else, Mr. Dines? Okay. To keep moving, Ms. Hall, have we received any written comments that would been requested to be read into record?
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Again, my name is Sean Fogarty. I live at 11609 Fawn Lake Parkway in western Spotsylvania County. I'm near S-Power's 500 megawatt, 1.6 million panel utility solar facility. They took out 4,500 acres of trees to make way for the green project here. I'm addressing this assuming it's a solar and battery facility because that's what Birchwood has applied for in the PJM grid operators website. It's clear that that's what their intention is. I read their proposal and I respectfully offer a couple of suggestions for you to consider based on our experiences here. First, the applicant has not allowed you and your staff near enough time to review all of the implications in this document in the less than a week since it was finalized. In Spotsylvania, our county staff, the commissioners, the supervisors, consultants, and our citizens group spent a year evaluating S-Power's proposals and engaging in the give and take with the developer on the project. Although I opposed the project, I was pleased with many of the protective conditions that resulted. We ended up with 3 special use permits covering the project. Each one was over 20 pages with 170 conditions for each permit. Just the decommissioning took up 5 pages in our special use permits. The exhibits, in addition to that, on fire safety, traffic, emergency response, health and safety were another 100 pages. This is in addition to the provisions in our ordinance dealing with solar energy facilities. So regardless of the size of the project that Birchwood wants to put in, my opinion is you need to address these provisions in your documentation. And additionally, we didn't even have a battery storage component, which Birchwood wants to do. You had an ordinance update work session last month, which I watched. You engaged in a good discussion of just a few of the issues that must be considered for these utility solar projects. These provisions will be all you have to protect the county when faced with a project in an industrial zoned area. I believe that your ordinance update is critical to ensuring that the county and its residents are protected from this type of industrial development. Finally, you may be aware there are a number of state initiatives in progress that will have a direct impact on this project. Supervisor Bender is already involved in one of them on HB 206, which is studying renewable energy projects and their impacts to agricultural soils and forested land. So my recommendation is to use the resources available from these working groups and other counties' experiences to update your ordinance for solar energy and battery storage facilities before considering the applicant's requests. These are complex land use and economic issues that should be fully vetted. As you're aware, you lose much of your leverage with the developer once any rezonings are approved. Thank you very much for your time and service to King George County.
Thank you, Mr. Fogarty. Appreciate it. All righty. Ms. Hall, did we have anything that needed to be read in the record?
Yes, I have a number of written requests. Julie Dobson is opposed at 1077 Kings Highway, and all of these will be put into the record but not read aloud. We also have Joanne Bullock opposed at 11057 Fletcher's Chapel Road. Evan Fairfax opposed at 623 Kings Highway. Aaron Johnson opposed. Address was not provided. Todd Fairfax opposed at 623 Kings Highway. Thomas Fines opposed at 1077 Kings Highway. Jason and Reagan, I'm sorry about butchering your name, La Prairie at 359 Kings Highway opposed. Robert Radinsky and Tamitha Callender, 480 Bully Hill Drive against. Barbara Howe in favor at 406 Collingwood Drive, Fredericksburg. Deborah Fairfax opposed at 623 Kings Highway. That's all I have, Chairman.
All righty. Thank you, Ms. Hall. So at this point, we will close this portion of the public hearing. Moving on to our, we'll get to, sir, we got other opportunities. Moving on through the agenda, approval of minutes, we have none. We have no plan reviews for the evening, which brings us to the public hearing. So again, folks, we got 7 to go through. So we're going to try to get through this as efficiently as possible. For the formalities, the King George County Planning Commission will now hold a public hearing for each case which has been properly advertised to receive public hearing per our adopted bylaws. A member of the public or their representatives wishing to address the commission shall proceed to the podium. Clearly state your name and address. The applicant or its representatives is allowed 10 minutes. Individuals wishing to speak to the public are limited to 3 minutes. Members of the Planning Commission shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. No speaker shall give or cede time to another. Mr. Dines will place a timer on the screen for each speaker. This will afford everybody an opportunity to have their voices heard. At the conclusion of each hearing, of each item, the Planning Commission shall proceed with its deliberation on that item, and members shall have an additional opportunity for discussion limited to 3 minutes, and then vote shall be taken. The commission may or may not take action tonight. So again, in doing it a little bit more efficiently than maybe we normally would, we're going to start with the applicant. We're going to do the Birchwood project presentation. So I believe we have Ms. Cosby. If you'd like, please proceed to the podium.
There's a clicker for you there, ma'am, if you'd like to.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, my name is Ann Neal Cosby. I'm a land use attorney at Wire Gill, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Birchwood Power Partners. I know that this procedure is a little bit different, and so what I think we had talked to staff about is I am planning to give one presentation that covers all of the applications so that the commission and the public do have a better understanding about what the application is, what the ask is, what the ask is not, I hope. And so everybody in this room will know one time what we're talking about here. And so for that reason, I have this presentation. I know that applicants typically, well, I know they have 10 minutes for each application. I don't know that I can get through it in 10 minutes, but instead of popping up and coming up here for 70 minutes, if you could just, maybe give me just a little bit of leeway, I would just ask, because I do think it's important for everybody in the room to understand the project. I think, yeah, I agree. It's absolutely important, and that's what I'm going to try to do here for everybody in the room. I have with me representatives from Birchwood. And so if there are questions that come up, we're here to respond to the greatest extent that we can. We know that it is a different type of project. And it's a different kind of ask. We acknowledge that, yes, we are here asking for a rezoning to industrial of various parcels with no particular use designated. Everybody's right. That is the ask. And we're going to sort of explain why we got here, how that has come about, and hopefully then give, some information that folks can understand there are mitigation measures in place to address, hopefully, all of those criteria that they've raised. And if there are others and we need to work with staff further, we're here to listen and do the best we can. So I want to explain again, sort of from the beginning, sort of how we got here. And the reason Birchwood is here, it's a product of that power facility right there on the screen is 211 acres of industrially zoned property. And because of proffers and proffers, I think most people know, but for those that may not know listening online or in the room, proffers are voluntary conditions that a developer offers to the county as part of a rezoning. And once those proffers are accepted, they become law and they run with the land, and they can't ever go away unless the applicant comes back to the Planning Commission and the board. So they control the property. So what we have is the Birchwood Power Facility that when it was approved in 1991, it came in with some proffers. And just a quick history, so everybody sort of understands, the 211 acres was rezoned from A1 to industrial. All of the other industrial uses were proffered out. So in other words, this property can be used for just the power facility, but nothing else that's industrial. The remainder of the parcel, which is 105 acres, was left A1. So Birchwood's property is split zoned. They have half of it that's A1 and the other half that's industrial, but can only be used for a power facility. In 91, a special exception permit was also approved to specifically allow the power facility. So power facilities were only allowed by special exception. So 1991, Birchwood gets the property rezoned, gets the special exception. So the result of that is that 211 acres can only be used for that industrial use. There was also a water intake that was approved with this special exception permit, or was part of that. And that was on another parcel down by the river. So again, for years, the power facility, operated here in King George in that area, but in 2021, times changed. And the power facility was decommissioned. It's no longer a coal-fired power facility. And so it was decommissioned, as I think probably everybody in this room knows. So what's Birchwood left with? It's left with 211 acres of industrial property that it cannot use for anything industrial. It has utility infrastructure in place. Obviously, it has power, it has water, it has rail. All of that is available on site, but it can't be used. So that was the issue that Birchwood had. So that was the question. What do we do? What's the best thing to do for this property? Well, I think for many developers and people that don't know what should I do, where do you go? You go to the county's comprehensive plan. And so that's what Birchwood did. So here is the outline of where the Birchwood and other properties are located in the county's comprehensive plan. It's located in the Route 3 West primary settlement area, and that's the area that's outlined in blue, and I hope folks can see that. But obviously the Birchwood industrial property is right there in pink. All of the other properties in pink are industrial properties. So any property in that Route 3 area is subject, or is included in that part of the comprehensive plan. Well, what does the comprehensive plan say about what should happen in this area? It says this area is intended to serve, this is straight from the comprehensive plan, as the industrial hub within the county. That's the county's plan for the properties within that blue outline. And within the plan, it says compatible light and heavy industrial development is encouraged residential development is discouraged. That's what the comprehensive plan says should happen within this Route 3 West settlement area. And if you look, obviously and people have talked about this, that's the location of the King George County landfill. The industrial park is in that area. There are other industrial and commercial uses. So that's what's the county's plan for the Birchwood property. So on that, okay. So when Birchwood was looking to what to do with its property, it looked at some of the other properties that I just showed you within that there within the Route 3 West Settlement area, because, there was an idea, if we're rezoning our property to industrial, might it not make sense to have an assemblage of properties to rezone those industrial? If that's what the county wants, let's help out. Let's zone property industrial. If that's what the goal is, can we help implement that? So there were various other parcels listed there, and it's hard because they are parcels by number. But Birchwood looked at parcels that were adjacent to the industrial parcel. Yeah.
Someone online.
Where rezoning to industrial would still be consistent with the comprehensive plan, because again, assembling these parcels and having them ready increases opportunities for economic development. If the county wants economic development and the comprehensive plan says it should be in this area, and you have parcels that are ready and are zoned industrial for some uses, then that helps implement the county's goals. So again, and there's existing utility infrastructure in the area, which again is a bonus to the county in that particular goal. So Birchwood looked at those properties that were in that settlement area. I'm not sure which, but then they also looked at properties. Okay, what's right adjacent in that area? And there were other properties that if you agreed that properties within the West Settlement area should be rezoned to industrial, could you assemble just a few more within that collective to make the area even greater for economic development? So again, these are the parcels, and I know somebody had mentioned, having a visual of the parcels that we're talking about is helpful. I agree. So this is these are the Birchwood parcels at the top, and then these are these other three parcels just south, and those are again located within that West Settlement area, so designated for industrial development under the comprehensive plan. So then again, Birchwood went out a little bit further and said, well, how about like right outside the West Settlement area, if Route 3 area, if there were adjacent parcels right next to it, would it not make sense, if the board approved, that those properties might also be zoned industrial? And so again, they're in the vicinity of existing or newly rezoned industrial properties. These are technically located in the Potomac River settlement area, which is pretty much the whole swath of the northern portion of the county, and then the Rappahannock River settlement area to the south. So that is correct. That for those parcels to come in would require a comprehensive plan amendment, and that's part of the request. That would just be to include these parcels within the comprehensive plan. So the speaker tonight absolutely understood that correctly. So this is what that looks like then. So there are the parcels that are in the Route 3 settlement area, and the county's consultant may also go through this, and if so, I apologize, but I did want everybody to know how we got here. I think this is vitally important. So the Birchwood parcels are there, those three parcels that, again, are in the Route 3 settlement area, a portion of the comprehensive plan, and then there are 4 more that are right adjacent or would be adjacent. So Birchwood was able to, obtain land rights and potential land rights for those properties, and thought, this is a way to bring these properties to the county for industrial zoning in accordance with the comprehensive plan, or an amendment to the comprehensive plan, of course. And maybe that would make sense. So again, the consultant will get into this, but the zoning requested in the various cases is a proffer amendment to that original parcel that I told you was rezoned back in 1991 that proffered out everything except the power facility, the remainder of that Birchwood parcel, and then these adjacent parcels that I just showed you on the other map, and to zone them all to industrial. So that's the request. Those are the various cases. Just rezoning all of those parcels, I think you heard concerns that individuals had. Well, if they just come in and they're unregulated, then, that is not good planning. That's, that opens up the county to, who knows what. And, we agreed with that. So we thought through what are some ways we can, again, bring this assemblage of parcels to the county that are restricted enough that it addresses some of those impacts, but also is available for a development user. So, how do we sort of, walk that tightrope? We want the parcels to be available for particular uses, but we don't want it to be just completely unregulated, understanding we're at the zoning, phase of this. So we looked at limits on land uses, landscaping and buffering, transportation, cultural resources, which somebody mentioned. I think folks have mentioned all of these, frankly. Water supply, fire, rescue, and police. Those are sort of some key items. And we looked at that and said, what would be appropriate for what, regardless of what use this might be. So the first, proffer condition would be for all of those parcels, certain uses in the industrial district would not be allowed. And those are up on the screen. And you can read through them, but, so those would not be allowed at all. And those are straight from the list of industrial. So it's basically in the zoning ordinance, just striking through, So what does that leave in the industrial? That's what it leaves. It leaves warehouse manufacturing, public uses, data centers, energy storage, solar, which we'll talk about, other uses permitted within the industrial light district, and accessory uses. So when people say we don't know what this is going to be, they're right. And I understand that. I respect that. And so this is the list of what it could be. And that's, at least when they say we don't know, here's a list of at least what it could be. And I agree. It's, I'm sure it doesn't satisfy, but that is the ask. And I want them to know that and let them know, yes, you're reading it right. So additional proffers, once a use, whatever that use might be, is on the property, what are some protections? Well, we've built in any building will be set back at least 100 feet from roads, 60 feet from adjacent property lines. That's at least double what the county industrial requirements are. Landscape buffers, regardless of the use, would be, as indicated up there, 45 feet alongside or rear property lines adjacent to residential or agricultural and other adjacent landscape buffers within the setback. So there would be a setback, and then within the setback is landscaping. Existing trees will be preserved to the greatest extent possible, which is a criteria of the zoning ordinance. So when people say we don't want, trees to be clear cut, and particularly not next to my house and not next to the road, that's a proffer. And, that would be something that the county would be able to say during site plan, you can't cut these trees down. And Birchwood would be held to that requirement. So that's built in there as a zoning regulation. Birchwood would have to provide a landscape plan, a maintenance plan, and a security to make sure we maintained all of those plants. All of that would come in when whatever the use is, it comes to the county, and the county, is the one that says we approve it or we don't approve it. So it is, it's done sort of on a case-by-case basis, but that protection, all of these criteria are in there. Construction mitigation, I think, people have, talked about, again, we don't know what this is. And so how can you even discuss, what impacts during construction? There will be a construction mitigation plan to address construction traffic, and whether that's peak hours, truck routes, school bus coordination. We understand where the elementary school is located, construction phasing plan. So all of that, Birchwood would have to provide to the county for county approval. So that is there. It's a requirement. A traffic impact analysis, if the warrants are there, and this is also from your zoning ordinance too, if a traffic impact analysis, would be required, and then the traffic improvements that would be warranted under that TIA will be constructed, and that's a proffer. So that's a condition, So a lot of it is left open, but it's there, once whatever use is, is identified. A cultural resources survey is required. That's a state requirement, but there's also a proffer, because I heard the gentleman, I think he was the gentleman on the phone talking about, gentleman here talking about the reservations along the Rappahannock, and that's absolutely right and potential. And there's a specific proffer that says any artifacts that are identified, if the state, it will follow state mitigation and be placed into the county museum. So yes, we understand that. That's a proffer. That's in there. A water supply plan, if required, will be provided if it's necessary. There's a water intake, as I said, already on the Rappahannock. So I know there was a lady who was concerned about how will this affect utilities. Birchwood has water. We will not be using county water supply. It has sufficient water. It has a draw through DEQ from this intake. So, that is available. An emergency action plan to work with fire and rescue, to be prepared with fire and rescue will be required. More on a granular level, security fencing, light controls are required in the proffers, and all activities are subject to the county noise ordinance. So I know that there were a lot of documents, for folks to read. Essentially, the same proffers, everything that's on the screen applies to every single one of these properties. I will say that for the property that's south on the Rappahannock, there's one proffer that says that any building is set back 300 feet from the river's edge. That's specific to that one parcel. But everything else, all of the properties will be subject to the same requirements. So we apologize, for the pages of documents, but at their core, it's all the same thing. So those are the zoning requests, and I'll move now to the special exception. And the special exception is sort of its own little special case, if you will. It's an amendment. The special exception that was issued in 1991, which I said authorized the power facility, this would terminate, that use, so that this property could not be used as a power plant. And so it would still allow electrical utilities and the water supply facility, again, the water intake on the property, because what we don't want to do is try to set up these properties, for economic development and then do away with the existing utility infrastructure. So it was very important for us, to be able to have the infrastructure in place, because we believe, and those are the only changes. So the special exception doesn't ask for any other uses. So no other changes are requested. This allows the property to be used sort of at its highest and best use for industrial. It allows for increased economic development without adding additional burden on county utility systems and infrastructure. And it allows for an increased tax revenue benefit to the county and the residents overall. So hopefully, with more economic development, that ultimately would be a benefit for everybody in the county. And here's the concept plan that we've included in the application. And so that is, sort of what it, generally speaking, whatever the use would be generally within those parameters, unless we came back to the Board of Supervisors, and it would have to come to the Planning Commission, obviously, in order to amend the comprehensive plan substantially. So So you can see where the access points are. You can see some of the landscaping, the existing trees there. I think, all of this is available through the county. I know it might be hard to read, but so you can sort of see the interparcel connectivity. So, that's conceptually what it would generally look like depending on the use. With what time I think I have left, and I'm sure I've gone way over, but I want to address the solar issue because I know that people are very concerned about, they look at this and they say, wow, that looks to me like 6 or 7 areas of solar panels all over. And I will tell you that the gentleman on the phone was right. In 2021, Birchwood did apply with PJM, which is the regional transmission organization that sort of approves and regulates electricity, at least in this part of the country. And before any developer, any utility can establish a solar facility, you need PJM's approval. You don't just go build it and it's okay. You need PJM to say, we say it's okay. So, you need a lot of people to say it's okay, but PJM is really the one. You need an agreement with PJM. And so PJM will study your request. You make an application, PJM studies the request, and then you negotiate an agreement. Well, I will tell you, and this probably will surprise nobody, within the past few years, the influx of requests for solar facilities, has really put PJM at a max. So PJM stopped reviewing any more agreements. So there's a bottleneck and they've stopped. So Birchwood did put in, it is correct, an application for some of those parcels, but if anything happens, it would be years before PJM at this point, would be able to, probably even study it, agree, negotiate an agreement. So there is no agreement right now. Studies have not been done, and all of those parcels are not included. So I can't say, this would never be used for solar, but I can tell you it's not going to, that happening, there's a lot of other steps that would take a very long time for that to happen. And so Birchwood really had to come up with an alternative. And what was the alternative that made sense, again, for it to be able to develop this property, and these others in a way that made sense to the county and was in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So I'll stop there. I appreciate the Planning Commission's time. The staff has been tremendous. We know this has, been, a lot of information. And so we're here to, as I said, answer any questions. I know your consultant has done quite a lot, and I apologize for the duplication of information, but we appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. And if you would you said you're going to hang around. We may have some questions we're going to get. Yes. So we're going to open now for the case. We're going to get into case number 22-07-004. Request by Birchwood Power Partners LP to rezone Proffers Tax Map 21 Parcel 50.10900 Birchwood Drive from Limited Agricultural A1 to Industrial District I. Total to be rezoned 105.581 acres. The remaining portion of the tax map parcel 21 parcel 50 is currently zoned industrial, where the decommissioned Birchwood power plant is located. The property is currently zoned A1 with a minimum lot size of 10 acres. The minimum lot acreage required for a parcel to be eligible for industrial shall be 10 acres with a minimum lot site area of 80,000 square feet contained within the minimum lot acreage. Property is located on Route 3 West Settlement Area per the King George County Comprehensive Plan 2009. At this point, we're going to turn it over to TRC representative to provide staff report and presentation. Mr. Greg Smith, I believe. Floor is yours, sir.
So good evening. My name is Greg Smith. I represent TRC companies. We have been contracted by King George County zoning. This is Greg Smith. I work for TRC companies in Richmond, Virginia. We were contracted by the zoning administrator to assist with the staff report and the presentation tonight. So I have a pretty lengthy slide deck, and I will try to go through it as quickly as possible. And there is some duplication, as Ms. Cosby said, but that's okay. We'll be able to get through that.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. Just a moment, please.
Good. Okay, so starting the presentation, there are 6 rezoning cases, as you can see, and then we're going to talk about the proffer amendment, the special exception that was discussed, and then the comprehensive plan amendment. So we're going to go through these one at a time. So as the chairman said, this is the first one is Birchwood, case number 2207Z04. This is going to rezone, request to go from A1 to I, and this is the portion on parcel 2150 of 105 acres. So just a quick review. This is the area of the county we're talking about. The vast majority is in map number 21 and the Morey property down on 29 for the water intake. An aerial view of maps 21 and 29. Again, we're primarily in the Birchwood area of 21. A map of the existing zoning. This was in Ms. Cosby's presentation, but again, you can see that A1, A2, and the industrial areas are highlighted. And another portion of the presentation discusses the settlement areas within the county in this area. So there's the Potomac River, the Rappahannock River, and the Route 3 West. So to rezone within King George County, there are a list of requirements, which is pretty lengthy, but we can go through these real quickly. So the application has to be submitted to the zoning administrator, which has been done. They have to provide a map, which they have. They provide a description of the property, and then they have to supply the names, addresses, abutting owners, and have a written description and nature of the extent of the amendment. The last one, item E, the applicant has to provide satisfactory evidence of any delinquent real estate taxes, nuisance charges, and other fees have been paid up to date. So starting the Birchwood case 2207Z04 to change the zoning from A1 to I for a portion of parcel 2150. Again, some of this is a duplicate, but the case states, as Ms. Cosby prefaced, this is on tax map 21, parcel 50, a portion of it. And I will just go to the map real quickly so you can see. So the rail yard is already zoned I, but a portion of the property is zoned A1, and that is the portion they're requesting to rezone. And just another colored map showing 2150. Again, that top portion above the railroad tracks is the portion that is seeking to be rezoned. The applicant did provide a survey of the Birchwood property, and you've seen this zoning exhibit already. So as Ms. Cosby said, there are permitted uses for the industrial zone, and this is a repeat of that information. This is information on the parcel. It mentions the 105 acres, its location, as we saw in the earlier maps. And then it discusses the utilities, as was mentioned earlier. The parcel already has a water supply to it. Virginia DOT has reviewed a preliminary review, and as Ms. Cosby said, the traffic impact analysis will be completed and the applicant will be required to satisfy that. So this is a quick rundown of the existing zoning And I will admit, this first one is the longest. When we get through the rest of these, they'll be a lot quicker, so just bear with me. This provides a list of the permitted uses. A continuation. And as you'll see in the next couple slides, as was discussed in the proffers, the list ends up striking out several ones, and we will see those. As you can see, several of them are struck out as part of the proffering. And then, as Ms. Cosby mentioned, the proffers by the applicant are very extensive. This one mentions the permitted uses, or I'm sorry, the permitted uses except the following, and there are 12 listed there.
Can you go back to the one that had what was going to be accepted there?
The permitted uses for A1? Oh, back, this one. There you go. Oh, no, that's the exception.
The one that's struck out.
Oh, okay, right here? Yes, so all uses permitted within C1 and C2, but not those uses permitted by right or by special exception with the retail commercial C1 or the general trade C2. All uses permitted within C1 and C2 if the use is ancillary to a use permitted by I1 or I. Accessory uses and structures customarily incidental or permitted uses. And then we start the list of ones that have been struck out by the proffers. Okay, highlighted on this page, it mentions the final location of the foregoing features will be submitted to and approved by the zoning administration as one or more site plans. That's if the plan gets that far, the applicant has to submit site plans. And again, this is a repeat of VDOT's information of their review about the traffic impact analysis, and the applicant has agreed to them. The applicant also mentioned the setbacks and the buffers. This is just a repeat of that information. And then going into the site design, it mentions about the trees, the plants, the landscaping, and the landscape maintenance plan. And again, I apologize, this is so lengthy. Site design continuing, it must have a security fence, not less than 6 feet high. It mentions outdoor lighting that we shielded. And it mentions about the existing building and structures would be removed. And then a phasing plan should be provided for each site plan, mentioning the construction schedule and the date. And then there's the construction mitigation plan, which was discussed. And then also repeating, there are the proffers that discuss the environment as far as the cultural resources that was discussed. And then the water supply plan. And then, and lastly, for environment, and intentional discharges of fuel solid, oil, solvents, antifreeze, and or other pollutants, hazardous materials, or flammable substances shall be strictly prohibited. These materials shall be properly stored, maintained, and disposed in accordance with all federal, state, and local laws. Public safety, the applicant shall submit an emergency action plan with the County Department of Fire and Rescue and Emergency Services. The emergency action plan shall address at a minimum emergency access, emergency response planning, any department training requirements, and any specific fire rescue and or EMS impacts associated with the use. The emergency action plan shall also include requirements for fire suppression. And then lastly, if any term or provision of this proffer statement or the application thereof is deemed invalid or unenforceable the remainder of this proffer statement or the application herein of such term or provision, other than those as which it is held invalid or unenforceable, will not be affected thereby. In each term and provision, this proffer statement is valid and enforced to the full extent permitted by law. So that is the conclusion of the proffers for this case 2207Z04. So TRC Companies, the consultant of King George County, we recommend this be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors with recommendation to accept the proffer statement and approve the rezoning request of 2207Z04.
Mr. Smith, hang around. We'll probably have some more questions once we get through it too. So I'm going to open the floor back up for public comment. I have 3 names on the list for folks that have signed up. The first was Debbie Fairfax.
Hello, it's me again. Debbie Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. I want to take this opportunity also to state that parcel 2136 is also my land, and it is actively farmed at this time, and it is slated to be bordered on the back and this side, or the right-hand side, by industrial property. Mrs. Cosby is a good lawyer. She did a good job. One of the things you're supposed to do is paint a story so that the people listening to you can kind of follow along and make sure that fits in. She painted this picture for us. Poor Birchwood, out of the kindness of their heart, voluntarily made these proffers that they could only produce energy in that plant. And now, gosh darn it, they're stuck, and we've got to help them out. Okay? The first thing she said when she stated it is proffers are voluntary. They did not do that without knowing that they would get something in return. And you and I both know they got a lot of money. It is not now the county's job to make sure that that investment brings them more money. The job of the board as elected officials and you all in referring to them is to protect the citizens, do what's best for us. They took a risk, and I would argue they made a lot of money. Secondly, it's 211 acres. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar, potentially billion-dollar company. 211 acres. They expect me to now have those 60 acres probably not going to be able to be farmed. Lots of these people, if they wanted to move, couldn't once the land around them gets zoned industrial, but they don't want to move because it's their family's home place. But we're supposed to bail them out for 211 acres that they voluntarily committed to only use as a power plant. Then they would have you believe that they wanted to help us out. Hey, they've said they want this area to be industrial. Let's help them build industry. The area is already industrial, and the industry in there is very non-invasive to the people around it. We've accepted it. We've ate the bitter pill of having that in our end of the county. Please don't make us take another horse pill that will impact generations. First of all, also, we were sitting on the couch, or I was sitting on the couch, and they decommissioned the power plant by, I guess knocking the smokestack off. I'm not a power plant expert. Nearly knocked me off the couch. My husband comes home from work and he said, yeah, I'm sure they did that because once it's decommissioned, they can set up a solar power plant. So I would like it to go on public record. You were right. Because she came up here and told you, we knocked down our smokestack. And now what can we do? Oh my gosh, all we can do is build a solar power plant. Help us out.
Thank you, Ms. Fairfax. Okay. Todd Fairfax.
I'm Todd Fairfax. I live at 623 Kings Highway. Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this application. In the narrative statement portion of the application, page 144 of the package, the proposed land use paragraph is entirely inadequate for the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, and the public to have any informed discussion or make any informed decision. Only vague and non-specific generalities are mentioned. And now, even after the presentation, no detailed actionable information has been committed to regarding the applicant's plan for the property. In fact, more detail is given on how the applicant would not use the property. How does this help you make informed decision? The reality is the applicant certainly has a specific plan for the property. Why else would we be here this evening? Does it appear that the applicant is willfully choosing not to disclose their intentions to you and the public? As has been mentioned, PJM Interconnection is a regional transmission organization that coordinates the movement of wholesale electricity in all or part of 13 states and DC, including Virginia. The publicly available new service queue shows that on March 1st, 2021, a new entry was made in King George for a 35.7 megawatt capacity solar power generation facility with a projected in-service date of October 30th, 2023, just under 14 months from today. Might this fact explain part of the reason why what appears to be a rush to approve this application? Also, the queue shows 3 other Birchwood entries, one on March 23rd of 21, and 2 on February 28th of 21 for battery storage projects, presumably battery storage facilities to be used in part in concert with the solar power generation facility. These storage facilities have projected in-service dates of December 31st, 2023 and June 1st, 2027. Perhaps the question of the proposed intended use has at least partly been answered. Does this seem like an applicant King George County would want to do business with? An applicant who has not been totally transparent and forthcoming on the planned intended use to the decision makers and to the public? I would offer public relations efforts make a poor substitute for transparency. There are very significant risks with this planned intended use that could threaten the health and safety of the residents, the environment, and have negative financial impacts for the county taxpayers if these projects are not built, operated, and decommissioned properly. The current solar and battery energy storage facility ordinances are very weak. The county needs to write very strong ordinances that address all of the risks and specify all of the requirements for these types of facilities. Approving this application now would be premature, foolish, and reckless. Please table this application to allow for more information gathering on the part of the county and the public, and until more robust, strict, detailed, and comprehensive solar and battery energy storage facility ordinances are approved. Thank you for giving consideration to my comments.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Catherine Allenson.
Hi, I'm Catherine Allenson. I'm 6352 Chatterton Lane. Please bear with me. I've never done this before. So I came here because I saw all the signs up near Sealston, and my husband and I retired out of the military in 2005 and moved here. My children went to Sealston, so I know that area well. I've spent over 20 years all around the world, Africa, Asia, many different places. And I just want you all to realize something, that King George is very special. You have something here, we have something here that a lot of people will want to use. All the construction, you can always build things, you can't get it back. You need to consider what the man on the phone said. Why is there such a rush? I actually had no idea what any of this was really about until I came here and I listened to the people, and I'm really scared standing up here, but I realized that why is there such a rush? And when I listened to the lady, 211 acres, proffer it back. Let them use that. Why do they have to have so much? And really think about putting this near the river? Why? 300 feet, really? There's a lot of things that need to be thought through, and I probably would like to say more, but my brain is gone. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All righty, Mr. Dines, do we have anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. For this particular one, nothing to be read into the record, Ms. Hall? Okay. So at this point, we're going to close the public comment period on this particular case number, and we're going to turn it back into the Planning Commission for discussion and weighing in on it. So gentlemen, what do we think?
I have a question for Mr. Smith. Let's see, on this case, 22704, on page 2 of our application, are the uses that are not permitted in the commercial intermediate material recovery facility, it says is not included. Is that correct?
Josh, can you hit your mic on?
It's on.
Sorry, thank you. So I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so except the following uses shall not be permitted on the property, numbers 1 through 12. Number 9 is commercial intermediate material recovery facility.
Yes.
Yet on this other page 6 of our packet, where you're striking out the uses, the intermediate materials recovery facility is not stricken.
So the ones that are struck out are the ones that are in the proffer, right?
Yeah, and the commercial intermediate recovery facility is in the proper as not a use, so I would expect to see it stricken. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yes, you should follow the proper statement. If there's a mistake here, I can strike that out if it's not consistent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's that way for all of them.
Okay.
That one use.
Good catch. Thank you.
Mr. Caldwell, anything else?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm just going to start going around. Mr. DeCorda, do you have?
I have the request is to rezone for industrial and not industrial light. Can anyone shed any light on that matter? If most of the things we're striking out seem to be reverting back to an industrial light zoning framework, is there?
Mr. DeCorda, the way the ordinance is written, all uses permitted in industrial light is also permitted in industrial. So even though industrial is least restrictive, industrial light is more restrictive, but both uses listed are permitted in industrial.
Right. My question is why not the more restrictive?
So are you asking the applicant why they didn't apply for industrial light? I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
If I may, that the list of uses that were up on the on that one slide, those uses are not permitted in the I-1 district. So those uses are, the existing Birchwood property is industrial. So again, trying to be able to sort of cherry pick, if you will, uses that might make sense in industrial, but again, proffering out those that really are more of the noxious uses, if you will. And, people can agree or, not agree, certainly, but we were trying to sort of get the highest and best use, but then strike out those uses that we didn't think, made sense on that property. But we thought that those few uses that weren't proffered out did make sense.
Would industrial light rezoning satisfy your commercial enterprise objectives? And if that compromises,
Yeah, no, well, I think that, I mean, it opens the property up. It makes it, more marketable, more opportunities for economic development. I mean, frankly, to have industrial in that area with the other industrial seemed to make sense. So, it's one of those, not to sound flip about it, but, aim high, let's try to, go to a classification that, has those uses that would make a lot of sense for the county and for Birchwood, certainly. And then proffer out those that, that didn't make sense and really wouldn't be appropriate.
thank you.
All right, going back around, Mr. Caldwell, anything else for right now?
I did have one more question for, I forget your name. I'm sorry.
Cosby, Ms. Cosby.
Miss Cosby.
Yes, sir.
So Birchwood will purchase and own all of these parcels if the rezonings go through, or they will lease them?
Anything can happen. I mean, it's, they could purchase some, they could lease some, other people, could do things. It just lets it be, I won't say shovel ready, certainly it's not permitted, with building permits, but that, an entity, whether it's Birchwood or somebody else, doesn't have to go through the entitlement process, the zoning process. So it just makes all of those parcels available.
Okay.
So regardless, so I can't say who would be the ultimate owner or user, but.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Gabbro?
I don't think I have any questions at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer?
I think this is a huge ask. I think it's a huge ask. I don't know, did we pull the original Birchwood approval, that case? Did we ever pull that one and look at it? Is this, I guess one of my questions is, we're going for a lot more industrial, which is wide open zoning for us. I imagine this piece of property was probably a proffer since they didn't zone the whole thing in the original case. Otherwise, they would have just zoned the whole piece of property and said, let's go. And once you get into industrial zoning, I mean, you have all industrial, all C zoning that's then available. You kind of open Pandora's box to whatever wants to come in, and it's all going to be by right when it comes in. So there's not going to be a whole lot of control. Even with the setbacks, you're double the industrial setbacks. But what is that compared to other setbacks in the county? And you're maybe equal or possibly a little bit more to the other uses. I mean, it's an A use now. I think it's just a huge ask without any particular purpose on it. We have Birchwood now, and we need to do something with it, but we're going to make it in a huge project. But that project, there's no real promises for the county as far as the end result. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
So I'm going to dovetail on that just a little bit. It's an often overused term, unprecedented, but I will tell you this is unprecedented that we get an application for this large of a rezoning with such an open-ended potential use on the backside. There's clearly been a lot of thought put into this, but it's still so ambiguous. It's a tremendous, to echo Mr. Myers, it's a tremendous ask. And the proffers aren't much. They're just not. I mean, they don't really do anything for the county. I mean, if we knew what was coming, I mean, I guess to put it in a nutshell, and I'll let everybody else speak. I read through this and I was like, oh, I missed it somewhere, because I always get it and flip through it. And I'm like, okay, where's the end goal? And I was like, oh, I missed it. And then I went back through it, and there's not there. I mean, it's nothing there. And you have to understand that coming before the county and asking for something with such an open-ended, trust us on this is, it's a lot to ask. And I don't know that it passes the reasonable expectation test. I don't know that anybody would reasonably expect approval for something like this. I was just expecting a lot more, and I guess, quite frankly, I'm kind of disappointed. I would have liked to add a little bit more. I would like to add a little bit more so that we could sell it, help sell it. I mean, I'm all for getting stuff in the county that brings things, but I'm kind of disappointed on a couple levels. One, that it's nothing there, and two, that, I mean, this is an out of cycle meeting. I mean, we came here tonight to make time out of our schedules to hear something that isn't there. And so, I mean, that's another thing I'm going to ask as a sidebar. If we're going to get these things moving forward, I want substance to them. I mean, if we're taking people's time out of their lives to come here, we're basically a volunteer board. I don't want to sit here for 4 or 5 hours and look at nothing. So, I mean, I'm kind of pretty disappointed in it, and I'll let Mr. Moss go next.
Now, I don't have anything else.
Question for Ms. Cosby. I wanted to follow up on something Mr. Caldwell inquired about, just trying to get an idea of who is who. Birchwood Partners are not, as the applicant, are not necessarily the end users of these properties. Is that correct?
Well, they may or may not be. I mean, it's.
Oh, in other words, you don't wish to disclose whether or not they are.
I mean, that's all I can say. There's no use. There's nothing that, that I can tell you as far as, something particular.
I mean, I'm not asking who the ultimate user might be. I'm just asking if Birchwood, as the applicant, is the end user or not.
Well, I mean, because we don't know what the use will be. I mean, right now it would just be, industrial property. I mean, they have their property that they own, and under rights. But, I mean, I don't know who will be owning the property and what the use will be. I think that's sort of, unfortunately, the situation.
Okay, so the purpose of the rezoning is just to get some value out of this land to use it or redistribute it somehow.
Yeah.
I guess it's the only thing I'm picking up on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And that's, again, because the properties in the area, or at least, the ones in the general vicinity of that Route 3 West area, the comprehensive plan identifies them as being appropriate for industrial. So, I mean, yes, it makes financial sense to Birchwood to go ahead and see what they can do, to increase the value and make them, as I said, not shovel ready, but ready for development. It helps if the county's comprehensive plan says this is where we want industrial, and some user comes and looks and says, oh, look, goes to your head of economic development, and he's able to say this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece are already zoned industrial, then that entity can come to, however the properties are held and say, this is what I'd like to do, and it's ready to go. So, and yes, and frankly, and I understand Mr. Parker's, frustration that there's not a lot of meat on the bones, and you're right. It is a different ask, but that's exactly, the situation.
I understand. Thank you, Ms. Cosby.
Yes, sir.
And to follow up on Mr. Meyer's comment, I just want to remind everybody that if we do approve these rezonings, we're often asked to add uses to different zoning districts. So the proffers here won't protect us from that. We could say yes to a new use in an industrial zoning in the future, and there are some properties here that may be fine for, and others which it may be very, very bad for. So I just want to remind us all of that too. Thank you, Mr. Parker.
And it's, for a lack of terms, it's almost like you're asking for a blank check. And just to piggyback off of you, Mr. Parker, Mr. Myers, I can't do that, not myself. So I need more substance, simply put. So thanks.
Where do I start? So I'm going to repeat a few things I've heard, but Ms. Cosby made a comment just a second ago that pretty much sums this up for me. Anything can happen. That's a quote. And you know, I've sat on this board now for going on 20 years, and I've never had an applicant come in here and ask for a rezoning just so that it would increase the marketability of their property. You know, and I'm not sure that's what this commission is about. We're about looking forward towards the county residents and doing things that improve situations for them. As far as I'm concerned, this particular request for rezoning part of parcel 50 from A1 to industrial, absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, staying in industrial is the highest use that I can think of at the moment. Now, I'm not opposed to doing some expansion of the industrial park that we have there now. I don't know what shape the rest of Birchwood's site is in after the demolition of their facilities, but I'm looking at a request, when you total it up, as somewhere between 600 and 700 acres. As was comment was made, that is a mighty big ask. For what? I don't know. And that's what bothers me more than anything. I have always seen requests for rezoning come with a specific use and a site plan that we can take a look at, analyze whether it's got problems or it doesn't. But right now, I've got a map with some pretty colors on it, and it's like, well, it could be anything. Anybody could own it. You know, the things that you've not taken or the applicant has not taken out of the possibilities are, in my mind, minimal. And somebody else made the comment, when you zone it industrial, you're opening it up for light industrial, you're opening it up for commercial, you're opening it up for pretty much everything. It's almost the equivalent of not having a zone on it at all. And I cannot support this. On this specific one, I do not support changing that parcel of A1 to industrial. And in general, for the entire proposal here, it's just like, you said it, Chairman, it's turning into a colossal waste of time to not tell us what it is they're actually trying to do. And it's not our job to help them market their properties. So that's all I've got.
If I can dovetail one thing on that. Also, the Birchwood property is really a property that's zoned for a power plant. I mean, it's if you're going to run a coal-fired power plant. If it's not that, it's not really industrial. So, I mean, that just wanted to add that.
I just want to echo what everybody else has really been saying. There's nothing here. I mean, here's an idea what this could be. Well, what this could be, you can't go by that. I mean, would we allow a land developer to come and buy 700 acres, say, I'm going to buy this and put 400 houses in there, and we have no say on it? It's like Birchwood wants to become an industrial park, land developer, buy all the 700 acres of land, say whoever wants to buy it, you can buy it. We got it ready for you. That's not a plan. That's
that's throwing spitballs against the wall, and whatever one sticks, that's who's going to get it. There's just really nothing here. I mean, I'm not the smartest one on this board, but I know this doesn't smell right. There's nothing here. So that's all I have to say about that. I have one more question, either for staff or the applicant. I don't know which. And the question is, what is the status of the decommissioning of Birchwood Power Plant? Are there any remediation steps that are left to be taken?
Yeah, I can answer that. It's complete. There are no more remediation steps that are required. It's fully decommissioned.
Is EPA signed off on it?
I believe
DEQ?
It's been signed off by the appropriate regulating authority.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to express the opinion that of all the parcels we're talking about, this one is nearly completely surrounded by county property. It abuts both the former power plant and the landfill. I could support a rezoning request knowing more about the intended use for that parcel a great deal more than I could for the other requests we're going to hear about tonight.
Yeah, to dovetail on top of that, this is the other part of the existing parcel, which was rezoned. It's also within the settlement area, and which is marked in the comprehensive plan for it. This is where we want it to go. So this is the least intrusive of all the ones we're going to see tonight, is what you're saying. So that's all.
Thank you, Josh. Mr. Myers, did you have?
I would think the Birchwood property would probably be the least, and this would probably be the second least. I know the applicant spent a lot of money to get to this point, a lot of time, a lot of everything. I hear a lot of, we need more answers. I don't know if you're prepared to go back and give us more answers or if you would like a vote. At this point, if you want to go back and rework the plan, I just where I said, I don't see a lot of takers. So, I mean, you can either rework the plan or we can vote. I don't want to slam the door if there's something that can be done on the other side.
Given that there are all the other applications, could we maybe ask for just a brief recess? Because what we decide on this one obviously would affect all of the other ones as well. I see where this is going, so.
We call that a potty break.
If you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Maybe everybody wants to stretch their legs. Yes, sir.
Motion for recess, 10-minute recess.
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 10-minute recess. We will reconvene at 8:02. Maybe we need to do that. I didn't know that. Sorry. I thought maybe they were out in the hall or something.
Mr. Vance.
Yeah.
You can call Mr. Vance.
Huh? That's right. That's right. It's 8:12. Get a motion to get back into session.
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
All in favor? All righty, we are back in session. And I believe the question was posed to the applicant.
So thank you for the break. And, we've come this far. I think we see where this is going, but we would ask to, go ahead and finish the process and, have a vote on the applications. We've already done this. So thank you.
Fair enough. We will do that. Let me get my paper in here. So, hold on a second. The motion before, or the request for motion before the Planning Commission would be to forward case number 2207-Z04 to the Board of Supervisors, and we're asked for a motion to approve or disapprove.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion with a preamble.
Yes, sir.
I asked staff to put up the GIS map just so everyone can see the relationship of these parcels with the existing industrial park. In the interest of adhering to the comprehensive plan and getting some conformity with the existing defunct Birchwood power plant, I would move that we forward case number 2207-Z04 to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation to approve.
Motion's been made. Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. DeCorda. All in favor?
This is, just to be clear on this, this is the piece behind Birchwood, not Birchwood, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Oppose? Motion does not pass. For all right. So for procedural correctness, we do need to go through each public comment period. So we will move on to special exception permit 91-03E2, amendment requested by Birchwood Power Partners on behalf of current owners Frank B. Taylor Limited Family Partnership easement, tax map 21, parcel 50, located at 10900 Birchwood Drive, and tax map 29, parcel 4, easement on parcel located along south boundary of Kings Highway. The special exception permit application requests an amendment to terminate the use of tax map 21, parcel 50 as a power production facility and manufactured aggregate facility, as well as to continue the existing use of tax map 29, parcel 4 for surface water intake facility, i.e. pumping station, in its current location on the lower Rappahannock River. This includes the water supply facilities associated with the intake and Dominion substation / switchyard and related electrical utility facilities. Mr. Smith, did you have any additional, or were you good on what you had earlier? Or?
No, I'm good. I just will note that the special exception permit will only be amended if the rezoning application for Birchwood Power Partners is approved.
It will or will not?
It would only be amended if the rezoning is approved.
Okay.
The special exception would only be amended if the zoning is approved. Thank you.
We can handle that second.
Break that down for me real quick.
All right. So based on what the applicant has provided, we do recommend the special exception amendment be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors with a positive recommendation. However, if you don't forward it with a positive recommendation, the special exception permit, if you're not going to rezone, the special exception permit does not need to be amended.
Would you like a motion nevertheless, just in case the board approves the rezoning?
Yes.
Could we approve this just so the water intake is still feasible? Or does it have to coincide with a positive affirmation vote on the other rezoning? You dig
Mr.
it?
Chairman, may
Yeah.
I?
Please. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We would ask that the special exception be acted on, and what I think would happen, if I see where this is going, if the proffer amendment for the industrial property is denied, which the request is that it would be industrial with all of those uses, then if that's denied, we go back to where we are now, which is the property is, can't be used for anything except for this power facility. But as a practical matter, it's been decommissioned. So we're okay with, even if the proffer amendment is denied, we understand that. And we've said it can only be used for power facility with this SE. So we're willing to let go of the special exception, which basically means that power facility will be zoned industrial. It will not be able to be used for anything because those proffers will still be in place, and we won't have this special exception. And we're okay with that because frankly, we don't need it anymore. But to your point, we do think it's important to have the intake, and those facilities, still validated by this action. So we understand. And so we would ask, and again, we would ask that you approve the amendment. And again, even if you're going to deny the proffer amendment, we understand. And if it will restrict this property as tightly as it can be, but we would ask that. Sorry for the confusion.
Is there a way to bring it up? I thought there was some water. There were more proffers.
Hold on. We actually need to go to public. We need to open it up for public comment, but
You do.
do we want to do that now, or do you want?
Just for clarity, if you do not approve the amendment, the old special exception with its conditions will remain.
Okay.
So if you look in your book and it shows all the strikeouts under that tab, those conditions will remain on that permit if you do not approve that special exception permit amendment, just so we're clear. But yes, you do need to open it to public comment.
Okay, so at this point, I am going to open the floor for public comment on this particular piece, special exception number 9103E02. We have 3 speakers have signed up. First is Miss Debbie Fairfax.
Back 623 Kings Highway. I'm pretty sure I read in my week of drinking from a fire hose that unless they change this, it sets up a speed bump to prevent a solar power facility from being done there. I'm pretty sure I read that, but you have to ask a lawyer. And then secondly, there's one more thing. She said that their current uses, the special exception permit, would remain in place, but that wouldn't hurt anybody because all it's allowing them to do is run a coal-fired power plant. She just told you they couldn't do that. But if you adopt their new thing, then that has just the, I think it was like battery storage facility, water intake facility, solar plant. So I just think this is an additional speed bump that gives a little bit of insulation to the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Todd Fairfax.
Todd Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. So I'm struck by the fact that the commissioners asked very pointed questions to the applicant and didn't get very pointed answers. So my comment about no clarity on the proposed land use still applies. I don't hear any conversations about the proposed land use for this particular property that's in question right now, including the water supply. What's the purpose? I think that's a reasonable question that you should ask. I can't imagine that they just don't have any idea what they're going to do with that property. I think that's germane to your decision-making process to understand what it is they imagine. And I would be a little bit surprised if you get the same kind of answer of we don't know, because I think that's disingenuous. I think they do know. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Catherine Allenson. You good, ma'am? Okay. All right. At this point, we'll see if there's anybody online. Mr. Dines?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We're going to, at this point, then close public comment on this particular case. Is there any discussion amongst the Planning Commission members?
I had a question for staff or perhaps Mr. Smith. So on the agenda, it's Special Exception Permit Amendment 9103E02. But in our packet, it's Special Exception Amendment Case 2207204.
That's a typo.
That's the typo. Okay, I see. Okay.
All right. Mr. Meyer.
I wish we had a good plan for this. Because even on the Birchwood property, I think it would make sense to do some kind of industrial across the street from our industrial park, but you still need a plan. And we still have no plan as far as what the plan is. The groundwater, to do this doesn't make sense unless we have a whole plan together.
Yeah.
We don't have a plan. As hard as we fight for groundwater in this county or with surface water in this county, it's a shame to pass up on something. But at this point, until there's a plan, I don't see any reason to go forward with an exception for something we don't have a plan for.
Gentlemen?
As I supported the last motion, I would support this one as well because it's keeping that agreement in place preserves the property, the value of the property, and I believe the applicant is. I understand that we haven't seen a plan. We're not seeing a plan, but the applicant is trying to get some uniform zoning so that a plan can be presented in the future. So again, I would support this as well. Thanks.
The value of the property was an A piece of property that was zoned for a power plant.
Right, but the access to water, the access to the water draw, I think, is what we're talking about with this permit, special use permit.
Okay.
Is this a motion to approve or recommend for approval?
It's for a recommendation for approval.
Recommendation, thank you.
Any additional discussion items, gentlemen?
So let me make sure, what's on this parcel? Is it just the water intake and the piping associated with it? If we remove the exception, is that still viable?
I don't think so.
I think that question would be either for staff or the attorney.
So if I may, the request that Birchwood has made is to amend the special exception just to remove the use of the power facility on 2150. So that's the only question, that's amendment that we're asking for. That's the only thing that's before the Planning Commission that would be changed. So if you voted to approve our request for the amendment, then the power facility portion would terminate. We couldn't use the property. Nobody could use that property as a power facility. The intake stays because we haven't asked to amend for that. So it's really not, it's not quite as complex. It's not, this won't affect the intake, and the intake, it is the same intake, sir, that's on parcel 29-4. It's the same one that's been there for, 30 years. So it's not changing. Nothing is changing. It's the same one that's been drawing the water from the Rappahannock. It's piped up to the Birchwood property. So we're not asking that that be changed. We're just asking that the ultimate use of the power facility go away. So that's the only thing. Everything else will stay exactly. So we're not, we're losing that, but everything else is the same. It'll be the same to the county.
Thank you.
So, and so that's terminate the use as a power production facility and manufactured aggregate facility, both of them.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had forgotten. There was an amendment to that SC some years ago, and so yes, all of those SC uses would be terminated. So it really couldn't be used then. If the commission recommended and the board approved, then the Birchwood property where the power plant was could not be used without further action for any industrial use. So it sounds like where you're leaning. So without Birchwood coming back to the county and asking, for that approval. So you would sort of be cleaning it up, if you will.
Just to be clear, the special exception was for a power plant only. So if you take the power plant off, it's going to be industrial with no use. Is that correct?
So back in 1991, right, this is when the special exception permit was created. So this amendment is it's asking to terminate the use as for this parcel 50 as a power production facility and manufactured aggregate facility. So all it's doing is, as the applicant said, is taking that use out, right? But they do want to continue the water intake, so there's no change to that.
But that leaves no uses.
But it wouldn't go to industrial then, because it was industrial with a special exception to only be a power plant or aggregate use. So now it would be industrial with no uses, or it would just be industrial because it doesn't have.
Or it's contingent on the passing of the others. Is that? Yes, please.
It would be industrial. Mr. Myers is absolutely correct, with no industrial uses, because recall, all of those uses were proffered out with the original rezoning. So if nothing else, and if the board doesn't ultimately approve a proffer amendment, then the status of the property, if this special exception amendment is approved, would be, yes, that property would be zoned I industrial, but all of the uses of industrial nature would be proffered out, and the SC would be terminated for power production. So, and Birchwood recognizes that, but that would be the result, and that is the request.
Do you have anything else?
Can I ask, I'm asking Heather, is that the way you see it?
I don't ever want to see something like this come.
Yes, your special exception does not change your zoning. The underlying zoning will remain the same. Is that your question?
So, but what I want to make sure of is we take it out as a power plant, but do you see the written documentation that we're going to be sending over to the Board of Supervisors is that it would be industrial, but there'd be no use as an industrial or anything else?
Right. So with the original rezoning of the Birchwood power plant back in the 90s, they proffered to only be a power plant. And with that proffer remains until it comes back for that approval to be used as industrial with new proffers or industrial as it is permitted under our current ordinance.
So I want to make sure that
separate from our special exception.
By approving this removal of the exception, that we're not turning it back into an industrial with all its rights.
Not without doing that proffer amendment.
Okay.
Tee it up.
I make a recommendation to forward special exception permit number 91-03-E02 amendment for industrial use with zero industrial uses to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made. Motion's been made and seconded.
Wait, is that the motion? You have to amend the special exception permit in your motion.
Okay. You want me to do it again?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to forward special exception permit number 91-03-E02, amendment to remain industrial use with no industrial uses, to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But I understand your motion, but the application is not for that request. So I'm afraid.
Okay.
And you can either vote it up or down. You can
Okay.
say,
So
you know, you
what,
can say,
that's what we were just explaining though.
well, that's the effect of it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, except for the industrial uses. I mean, if you say a water intake is an industrial use, what I don't want is, and that's why we were very specific, because we don't want the, you know, the infrastructure to be impacted. So it's really just, I mean, if you were inclined, I think the motion would be to amend the special exception as, you know, to terminate the use of that parcel as power production. And I mean, that's the result of what that language is. And I hope Ms. Hall and I hopefully have explained that, but yeah, sorry.
One more time. Well, let me ask, if we forward this recommending approval and it is approved, could Birchwood commence another industrial activity?
Go ahead.
Shale and gravel? If it's zoned I.
Not without the amended proffer, which is separate from your special exception.
So if somebody came forward with another
So
special
you have three layers. You have the industrial layer, which is their industrial zoning, and then you proffered it down as only a power plant, and then you further went on with a special exception permit. We are only talking about the special exception permit. So if you take away the special exception, it does not affect your proffer, and it does not affect the current zoning. Does that make sense?
Right, it remains zoned industrial. So if this is approved, then it's zoned industrial. Could Birchwood sell it tomorrow and have it, the new owner build an aggregate plant or a?
Not without a proffer amendment.
From whom?
From the Planning Commission and the board.
No, who would request the profit?
The applicant would have to request it.
The new owner
Whomever owns it at the time of the request.
has a by right to do what? To do.
Because of the proffer, it has no rights other than what is proffered. So they have proffered to only be a coal power plant. And that amendment has not been approved for change thus far.
Okay, let's try it this way.
The request is for the special exception.
Okay. I make a motion that special exception permit number 91-03-E02 be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of denial.
Motion's been made.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
All right. Bodkin.
Opposed?
Wait a minute.
Oh.
I gotta be accurate. Myers, Dakota. Thank you.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Tie vote?
Yes, sir. Motion fails. Try again.
So before we get any further, after this meeting, I want to talk to the county administrator, economic development and planning. I want to talk to y'all separately after this meeting. Just want to say that now. All right, next item. Case number 2207Z05, request by Birchwood Partners LP on behalf of current owner J. Decker Butzner to rezone Proffers Tax Map 21 Parcel 25 adjacent to former Birchwood Power Facility from rural agricultural A2 to industrial district. Total lot area to be rezoned approximately 124 acres. Property is currently zoned A2 with minimum lot size of 2 acres. The minimum lot acreage required for the parcel to be eligible for industrial shall be 10 acres with a minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet contained within the minimum lot acreage. Property is located in the Potomac River Rural Development Area per King George County Comprehensive Plan. Comprehensive Plan amendment is proposed to include this property within the Route 3 West Settlement Area. Mr. Smith, anything?
Well, we do have our certification for this. The rezoning request, the same minimum requirements for zoning that we talked about before. We have the map. The permitted uses are the same. It's very similar. So the only change here really is that this would have the comprehensive plan amendment would revise map 6.
Why? Is it outside of the settlement district?
It is, yes, because this affects the Maury parcel, which is where that water intake is that goes down to the river.
We're talking about 2125. 21-25 actually
Butzner.
abuts Birchwood and
I had them
Chapel
confused.
Road.
My mistake. So this one, really all the same permitted uses. The acreage, 123 acres.
Keep going. Keep going.
Same permitted uses. The proffers are the same
Go.
as 2150 that we spoke about earlier. So yes. There you go. This is located south of the tracks, as you can see.
All right, again, for formality's sake, we have to open the floor for public comment. This time we're going to open the floor for public comment. First speaker that we have on the list is Ms. Debbie Fairfax.
We need to have a discussion about this. I'm Debbie Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. If I'm understanding, and please check because we don't have anything to look at, this parcel, the back part of it, or I guess that would be the western part of it, ends on Fletcher's Chapel Road. Am I speaking about the right piece of property? Okay, on that road, you have my mother's house, which is directly across from the school. You have a small wooded area, and then you have these people's house right here, the trainers. Then there is a huge amount of completely forested woods that goes all the way from Fletcher's Chapel Road all the way over to Birchwood. What are they going to do with it? I mean, this is, it's near a school. It's very close to a school. My mother is directly across from Sealston Elementary, then the trainers, and then this property. And they have given you zero information about what they plan to do with it. I just found out this week, again, on my journey to learn everything in the 244-page document, that even municipal water in our county comes from a well. Apparently, since we have no reservoirs, they draw huge wells. Like Hopyard Farm is on a well that hooks into a municipal system. Sealston is on a well that hooks into a municipal system. This is an elementary school we're talking about. And they want you to approve an industrial zoning of a completely forested property that is close to an elementary school. The other thing is they had asked that all of these requests, that was the first page of their document. The document was signed by their attorney who's present tonight, that you take all of these as one. So there is obviously a plan here. This is not just, let's be nice to the county and go acquire a lot of properties that we can help make industrial. You deserve, and the citizens deserve, more information. Frankly, they should not, frankly, this is disrespectful to your time and our time for them not to give us information, yet to keep asking you to please make a decision to zone something industrial. And I can't remember which one of you gentlemen said this, but once you zone something industrial, I mean, pretty much the sky's the limit across from an elementary school.
Mr. Todd Fairfax.
Todd Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. At the risk of sounding repetitive and pedantic, again, they have had another opportunity at the podium to disclose their plans. They have not. We still don't know what they intend to do with this property, and the point taken that it is a beautiful wooded property that will not look like that anymore when it's turned into an industrial property. There's not much industrial use for woods, so there must be a plan to take some amount all the way up to all of that and turn it into an industrial use that they have a plan for. Let me again remind you that Birchwood has made submissions for putting solar power generation facilities in King George to begin operation in October of 2023. This is still a matter of public fact accessible on the PJM website. I would also like to note that this is the first case where they're desiring to expand the industrial area and include more things in the Route 3 West Settlement area. And by their testimony and presentation earlier, it was to create a larger industrial footprint for the county. I don't think that's what we want. I think if you've been hearing the voices of the people tonight, there's a resounding, we don't want that. The industrial is what the industrial is, but this also is a move to expand the industrial footprint and several cases following this. So you would be setting precedent that a company could come in and decide what we would want to do with our property and turn more and more and more into industrial use. The first item of the comprehensive plan is to protect the rural character of King George. That would not be in keeping. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer Ham.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Ham. I'm at 6496 Auburn Woods Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of my father. He's at 10549 Fletcher's Chapel Road, which is the only 2 acres that Mr. Buster no longer owns because he sold it to my mom and dad 60-some years ago. Now they're talking of making it industrial, which includes commercial, on 124 acres of forest. I don't know, a lot of y'all might, I would think you live in the country, not the city. I hate to see, it makes me sick to think 124 acres of those woods are going to be gone. You don't even realize the animals you see out there, the wildlife that you'll now destroy. Y'all may need to check to see if there's any eagles out there because they see quite many of those too. Did anybody think of that? You know, that is, you know, we have all this around here and they want to now take this and everybody else's property and make it whatever they want. Again, the proffer. What good is this proffer if you don't know what it is? My dad doesn't want a gate, a fence around his acreage to separate it from whatever it is they decide to build. So I think we're going in this blind, and I think it's a disgrace to us. We live here, they don't. The water supply, ever since they started building on that road, when Oakland Park took place, when that wonderful power plant took place, you want to know how his water is? It's gotten worse and worse, and he's on a well. To hook up to septic and water around this place, you don't get a discount. You pay everything else, $20,000, $25,000. How much is it going to be at this point in time? And is the King George going to be able to take and handle more water? The water system now can't take the customers that are on it, and then you're going to have to try to help out the people that you're pushing to ruin their lands. So that's just another thought to think about.
Thank you. Catherine Allenson. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, any discussion?
Clarification from staff, please. Is this or is this not in the settlement district, or is this an expansion of the settlement district? Does this require a comprehensive plan update?
Thank you. The southern border of the Butzer property, there's a small piece right in the middle. That's where the map will be amended. So it's just that bottom piece.
So there is an amendment for this parcel.
So yes, you're
okay. Thank you.
Is there a graphic of the settlement area? I know there's one in here. I couldn't find it. Oh, and of course. Yeah, yeah. Map 12 or, yeah, okay. Map 6. Map 6. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's. Okay, so that is in,
Part of it is.
with the exception of the southwest corner. No, that's a different parcel. Yeah.
This little piece here.
Oh.
What you're looking at in that packet is the proposed amendment. So the map that you're looking at in the binder that you have here and the front cover is the proposed amendment. So it appears as though the Butzner property is in it because that was the amendment, but it is currently not in that settlement area.
It's not currently in.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the people online have asked that you speak clearly into the mics. They are having trouble hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. I will do that. I hadn't said anything lately. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this?
Just a comment. I'm not in favor of expanding the settlement district for the comprehensive plan on any of these properties. But at the same time, I'd like to say that I would hate just as much to see a property like that go to A2 cluster by right.
I understand. Let's say two. All right, gentlemen, any further discussion? Mr. Williams? You had a pencil?
Well, yeah, I know. In approving, it means we would have to do more work to the comprehensive plan, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that was what I was perplexed about. Okay.
Do we want to go around? Is there any additional comments, Mr. DeGorda? Mr. Caldwell?
None.
Mr. Gabbro?
None.
Ms. Myers?
Nah, I think we're getting further away from the power plant and outside the plant.
Mr. Moss? Mr. DeVries?
If I have to argue, I will. It is adjacent to the power plant property. There is only one entrance shown on Fletcher's Chapel Road. The rest of the traffic flow appears to be intended to be internal. There are adequate buffers on Fletcher's Chapel Road and on the adjacent property. Again, those are just points in favor in addition to my disdain for A2 cluster subdivisions. But that is not outweighed by my desire to avoid amending the comprehensive plan for it.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Kendrick?
Come on.
Mr. Watkins? Okay. Vote time. Anybody that can make a motion to, or
I make a motion, we forward case number 22-07Z05 to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of denial.
motion's been made?
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right,
I'm sorry, who's second?
Mr. Kendrick.
Miss-
All righty, case number 22-07-Z08, request by Birchwood Partners LP on behalf of the current owner, William W. Reed, to rezone proffers tax map 21 parcel 474848D located along Kings Highway, Birchwood Creek Road from limited agricultural A1 to industrial district. Total lot area of 104.169 acres to be rezoned. The property is currently zoned A1 with a minimum lot size of 10 acres. Minimum lot acreage required for parcel B eligible for I shall be 10 acres with a minimum site area of 80,000 square feet contained within the minimum lot acreage. Property is located along Route 3 West Settlement Area per the King George County Comprehensive Plan 2019. All right. Any
Parker,
comments?
Which case?
I think that you skipped a few.
You skipped a few. You went to 8.
Z06, Z07.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
I flipped a page wrong. Sorry. Let's go to 220706, request by Birchwood Power Partners LP on behalf of the current owners, Hong Tai Tai, to rezone proffers tax map 21 parcel 33, also known as 1305 Kings Highway, and tax map 21 parcel 35, adjoining parcel located along Kings Highway from rural agricultural A2 to industrial district. Total lot area of 50.963 acres to be rezoned. The property is currently zoned A2 with minimum lot size of 2 acres. The minimum lot acreage required for a parcel to be eligible for industrial should be 10 acres with a minimum site area of 80,000 square feet contained within the minimum lot acreage. The property is located in the Potomac River Rural Development Area per King George County Comprehensive Plan. Comprehensive Plan amendment is proposed to include this property into the Route 3 West Settlement Area. Any comments by Mr. Smith or the applicant before we open the floor?
No.
Okay, I open the floor for public comment. On this one, we again have Ms. Debbie Fairfax.
Debbie Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. I'm also one of the owners of parcel 2136, which is actively farmed and has been. This piece of property in question right now abuts my property to the right. It also fronts Route 3, and it is bordered on the right by Birchwood. So anything that happens here is going to be next to a active farm that's growing crops. It's also going to be on Route 3 and seen by everyone who goes by. And it's going to, on the right, have Birchwood Road where all of the trucks go to dump trash and where many of us go to dump our trash. If I'm correct, is this one also requiring a amendment to the county comprehensive plan?
That's correct.
Okay. An outside corporation is proposing a change that goes directly against the desires of residents to the comprehensive plan that was adopted by the people's representatives. The proposed change overall of this comprehensive plan change they want would affect 3 miles of Route 3 West from 605 on the west side of LaGrange to Route 603 at Sealston and stretch all the way back to the railroad tracks. Public survey results from your work session in November of 2021 showed the #1 priority for 63.5% of residents was to preserve the agricultural and rural character of the county. Citizens stated in the survey that the least preferred area for development was the Route 3 West Settlement Area. Is this change to the comprehensive plan so that Birchwood's current zoning requests and all those they initiate in the future will be more well received because they fall within the uses of the comprehensive plan? Look at right tonight how you guys have been influenced by, is it already in the area that's industrial? We don't need to extend the industrial area against the county's wishes for an outside corporation that won't tell us what they intend to do with the property. If that property becomes contaminated in any way, then I'm not able to have that property farmed. It's also on Route 3, directly across from, I mean, what is it, half a mile to the Rappahannock River? I just don't see how we can even entertain these proposals to make something industrial when we don't know what the use is. Additionally, the setbacks that they've offered in their proffer are not very comforting when you think of putting an industrial site on Route 3. Should it happen to be solar, and the reason I have to keep banging this drum is J-Power USA's website right now reads, Birchwood is J-Power's third solar project in development and part of a new initiative to add renewable generation to our existing portfolio. And it talks about decommissioning a coal-powered plant, and it will be used as a new solar and storage generation. I mean, the problem is maybe they're telling the truth and that isn't what they're going to do, but how are we supposed to know?
Thank you. Todd Fairfax.
Todd Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. The previous case that you recommended denial on was to rezone agricultural A2 to industrial and to expand the industrial footprint by way of amending the comprehensive plan to include it in the Route 3 West settlement. This is the exact same thing, only differing in acreage. The precedent that you've just set almost dictates what you must do with this property. Otherwise, you're inconsistent. So obviously, the vote needs to be the same. Deny.
Ms. Allison, did you want to? Okay, thank you. All right, at this point, well, anybody online, Mr. Duns? Sorry.
Oh, he's on the phone? Well, it won't come up until it says call. Evan Fairfax, would you like to make a public comment? Evan Fairfax, are you online? It just says caller 789. It doesn't have the name, so.
If you're online, please unmute.
If you can hear us, please unmute your phone.
Yeah. I think unless we can get somebody in the next couple seconds, we're going to try to move on, folks.
Evan Fairfax, last call. Can you unmute your phone?
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and officially close this portion of the public comment for this case and remand it back to the Planning Commission for discussion. Gentlemen?
I just want to make one correction. It was stated that tax map 21, parcels 33 and 35 abut the current Birchwood property. They do not share a property line.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Colwell. All right, let's go down the line. Mr. DeCorda?
I have no comment.
Mr. Caldwell, any additional comments?
No.
Mr. Gabbro?
No additional comment.
Mr. Myers?
No comment.
Moss? Mr. DeVries?
Just to confirm with staff, does this require a comprehensive plan update as well
Yes, it does.
for the entire property?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
No comment.
Mr. Kendrick?
No additional comments.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, we know the drill. Looking for a vote.
I move that case number 22-07Z06, request by Birchwood Power Partners LP on behalf of current owner Huang Tai Tai to rezone with proffers tax map 21 parcel 33 and tax map 21 parcel 35 be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation for denial.
Motion's been made, seconded. Mr. DeVries. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item is case number 22-07-Z07, request by Birchwood Power Partners LP on behalf of the current owner, Joan Earlene Haney, to rezone proffers tax map 21 parcel 44 located along Kings Highway and Birchwood Creek Road from rural agricultural district A2 to industrial district industrial district I, total lot area of approximately 42 acres to be rezoned. The property is currently zoned A2 with a minimum lot size of 2 acres. The minimum lot acreage required for a parcel to be eligible for industrial shall be 10 acres with a minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet contained within the minimum lot acreage. The property is located in Route 3 Settlement West area per the King George County Comprehensive Plan 2019. Any comments from applicant or Mr. Smith? Okay. At this time, we're going to go back, open the floor for public comment on this case. And again, we have Ms. Debbie Fairfax.
Good evening again. This is Debbie Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. All right, this parcel is inside of the area, the industrial area. However, it is also completely treed. It is a major, you look at how many acres it is, but it's all treed, kind of old forest looking. Also, you have to consider that because they have not given us a designed use for it, even though it's in this industrial section. Mr. DeVries, you said you didn't want it to turn into a subdivision. Amen, we all agree. But the reality is nobody's going to put a subdivision across from a power plant next to a dump. So that is not a problem on this one. The other thing is you do have people living near that property. You have Moose Dobson who spoke to you and told you he's lived there his whole life and he's 91 years old. You have Tommy Dobson who currently lives in his parents' house. You also have some young couples that are starting out in starter type homes. Give them a chance. Don't make a decision to zone industrial to a company that has not demonstrated to you any reason to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Todd Fairfax.
Todd Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. So given that this property is located in the Route 3 West Settlement area, there's no obligation to take something that is A2 and just convert it to I because it's in the Route 3 West Settlement area. Leave it A2. The first point in the goals of the comprehensive plan is to preserve the rural character of this county. Keeping it A2 in the Route 3 West Settlement area where it stays wooded is in concert with that. Please deny this case.
Thank you. And Ms. Allison? Okay. All right. Is there anyone online, Mr. Dons? Okay. At this point, then, we will close this portion of the public comment period for this particular case. We will turn it back to the Planning Commission for discussion. I'm going to do round robin again. Mr. DeCorda.
No comment. No comments.
Oh, well. Mr. Gabbro. Mr. Meyer.
No comment.
Mr. Moss. No, come on, Mr. DeVries. Mr. Williams.
No comment.
Mr. Kendrick. All right. Okay, gentlemen. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we forward case number 22-07-Z07 to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of denial.
Motion's made.
Motion seconded.
Motion's made and seconded by Mr. Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. In favor? Is anybody else in favor? Denied? Opposed? Okay, sorry, opposed. Mr. Kendrick, were you?
Denial.
So you're in favor of denial?
Yes.
First vote. You had one opposed. Okay. Motion passes 9-1. All right, now the one that I had originally skipped to. Case number 22-07-Z08, request by Birchwood Power Partners LP on behalf of the current owner, William W. Reed, to rezone with proffers tax map 21 parcel 47, 48, and 48D located along Kings Highway and Birchwood Creek Road from limited agriculture A1 to industrial district, total lot area of 104.169 acres to be rezoned. Property is currently zoned A1 with a minimum lot size of 10 acres. The minimum lot acreage required for a parcel to be eligible for industrial shall be 10 acres with a minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet contained within the minimum lot acreage. Property is located in the Route 3 West Settlement Area per the King George County Comprehensive Plan 2019. Comments from staff or the applicant? Okay. At this point, we're going to open this for public comment. Ms. Debbie Fairfax.
Debbie Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. Can we ascertain exactly where this property is? Can we have a picture of it? Okay. So this is again outside of the original, what was slated to be industrial. This gentleman to my right, Wesley just said, right across from me. So you've got people sitting here looking you in the eye who are wondering why we're considering zoning something industrial with no information. Again, it fronts Route 3. It's a huge area.
Thank you.
Does this require a change to the comprehensive plan as well? I believe that it does.
This one does not.
Okay.
Mr. Fairfax?
Todd Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. So for the same reason you denied the previous case, to be internally consistent, you must deny this case as well. Even though it's not an expansion of the comprehensive plan, and even though the property is located within the Route 3 West Settlement area, it's still a request to rezone from agricultural, albeit A1 as opposed to A2 in the previous, to industrial. There's no requirement for everything in the Route 3 West Settlement area to become industrial. Maintain consistency, please, with the protecting of the agricultural and rural nature of this county. Please deny this.
Mr. Musselman?
I've been sitting down a little while.
I know that feeling.
I live right across the street from here, but my concern is the whole Route 3 corridor, as stated before. There's a big sign that there says, "Welcome to King George, first county of the Northern Neck," which is very rural. Let's not mess that up, man. Leave it alone.
Thank you. And Ms. Allison, you good? Okay. All right, Mr. Dines, anyone on?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, at this point, we are going to conclude this portion of the public comment period and close it out, and we will bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion. I'm going to go down, starting with Mr. DeCorda.
I have no comment.
Mr. Caldwell.
I do have a question for staff. So in the subject, it says parcels 47, 48, and 48D. 47 is split in two pieces on the north and south side of Route 3. Is that correct? But in the recommended action, it says parcels 47 part of. So I assume it really means just the northern part and not the southern part?
That would be correct,
Okay.
which is also consistent with the survey that you were provided.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
So you're saying the north side of Route 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the settlement area. Yeah.
Yes. The portion of 47 that is in the settlement area is what we're discussing.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Gabbro?
I'm sorry, I have no further comment.
Okay. Mr. Meyer?
It is on Route 3. I think we exhaust Birchwood Creek Road before we start moving to Route 3. That's my only comment.
Mr. Moss? Mr. DeVries?
Well, this is on Route 3 and it is also on Birchwood Creek Road. I mean, we're getting close to the industrial park again. I think Let me just say too that we are out of room at the industrial park. I understand people don't want to convert all of A2 into industrial, but we're not. We need more industrial. We need an economic base in the county. This one I think I will support.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, its locality is more in tune with the industrial park that's already in place, as well as it doesn't require any adjustments to the comprehensive plan. So I can support that as well.
Mr. Kendrick?
So while I concur with the idea that the county could use some more industrial land, when they joined these three parcels together, I can't support it. Now, if it were just parcel 47, I might be convinced. But again, I'm back to the idea that I don't know what they want to use it for. And therefore, I'm not inclined to support the rezoning without understanding what they plan on doing. So.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins? Okay, without further discussion, we will seek a motion.
I move that case number 22-07-Z08, request by Birchwood Power Partners LP, to rezone with proffers tax map 21, parcel 47, the northern part, 48 and 48D, be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation for denial.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Gabbro? All in favor? Opposed? Hold on. You good? Okay. Opposed? I missed Mr. Gabbro. Where's your vote? Mr. Gabbro, what were you?
He was a recommendation to no.
Okay. So it was another tie? Okay. Gotcha. 6-4. Sorry.
6-4 no.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Case number 22-07-Z09. Request by Birchwood Power Partners LP on behalf of the current owner, Maury Company LP, to rezone with proffers tax map 21 parcel 43 located on Kings Highway at 12134 Dissington Lane from limited agricultural district 1 to industrial district, total area of 264.3 acres to be rezoned. The property is currently zoned A1 with a minimum lot size of 10 acres. The minimum lot acreage required for the parcel to be eligible for industrial shall be 10 acres with a minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet. Contained within the minimum lot acreage, the property is located in the Rappahannock River Rural Development Area of the King George County Comprehensive Plan 2019. Comprehensive Plan amendment is proposed to include this property in the Route 3 West settlement area. Comments from Mr. Smith or applicant?
Yes, so same permitted uses, same proffers, however, the addition, so same proffers as 21-50 with the following additional conditions. Any historical site or sites identified on tax parcel 2143 shall be protected as may be required by the Commonwealth of Virginia, and all buildings shall be set back at least 300 feet from the Rappahannock River.
Okay. All right. At this time, we are going to open the floor for public comment period. Ms. Debbie Fairfax.
Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. Okay, so this property, it borders the river. It also borders Route 3. It's the property, you'll pass a home and then lots of open land after it. If we could bring that map back up, please, so I can refer to it. You'll notice, obviously, the river begins Caroline, and then you'll notice that this property actually borders Stafford. So whatever we do, we better have our act together. And since they have not explained to us what is going to be done, I don't see how we can approve it. Also, just lost my, we're getting tired, aren't we? Oh, I know what I wanted to address.
Creek.
Obviously we want people to use their land, but we also have zoning regulations for a reason. And the river here is something that we need to protect. And we also need to
Good question.
make sure that whatever is in that area is in keeping with what we want to see in King George. And obviously, to beat the drum once more, we have no information on a property bordering the river, bordering Route 3, outside of the slated industrial area. It's actually on the opposite side of Route 3. So I think that would require maybe a comprehensive plan change too. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and hanging in there.
Thank you. Todd Fairfax.
Todd Fairfax, 623 Kings Highway. So this is the third of the three cases that involve recommending an amendment to the comprehensive plan for the expressed purpose of converting agricultural land into industrial land. You've denied the previous two. To be consistent, you need to deny this one for all the same reasons and additional ones. And I'll foot stomp because I haven't for a few cases. We don't know what they're going to do with it. They won't volunteer that, but they know. Please deny this.
Heather Eland and Ms. Allenson. Okay. Okay, any comments online, Mr. Dines?
Yes, we have Sean Fogarty again.
Okay, Mr. Fogarty, the floor is yours. Mr. Fogarty? Is he muted on our end, Mr. Dines, or?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. There you go.
Great. Thank you. Sean Fogarty, 11609 Fawn Lake Parkway in Spotsylvania County. Just to comment on the solar piece of it, I've heard a couple of comments about Birchwood's applications to the PJM grid for solar. Just to remind everybody, that's one of 4 applications there that's in the PJM queue. The other 3 are for battery energy storage facilities totaling 252 megawatts. This parcel could be potentially one of those that they would use for that. That would, by my calculation, that would end up being one of the top 2 or 3 size battery storage facilities in the country. That's massive. You bring in a lot of lithium ion, phosphorus, potential for safety problems. And again, maybe the county wants to do that down the road. You don't have any ordinance provisions in place to protect you for that. During your discussions last month on the 26th, you talked about some of the things related to solar facilities. One of the recommendations from your consultant was to keep them 2 miles away from the river. This borders the river, so you may not agree with the 2 miles that your consultant had recommended, but I think this goes to the extreme, and I think that's something that you want to look at is, do you want Birchwood to essentially write your zoning or solar ordinance for you? If you were to approve this, you would be essentially adopting all the conditions, a 45-foot setback, no setbacks from the river like 2 miles like is being proposed by your consultant. So I think it's the cart before the horse. My recommendation would be to disapprove and then decide what you want to do in your solar ordinance and let them come back if they still want to. That's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. All righty. If there's no further comments, we're going to close this portion of the public comment period for this case and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion. I'm going to start with Mr. DeCorda. Any comments, sir?
I have to say, due to the sensitivity of the river and the lack of information on intended use, I would recommend denial.
Yep. Mr. Caldwell?
No comments.
Mr. Gabbro?
No comment.
Mr. Meyer?
No comment.
Mr. Moss? Mr. DeVries?
Couple of notes for the applicant. On page 2 of the application, Section 4, paragraph 2. There's no mention of river buffer in the buffers section. Don't start. On page 4, paragraph 4, section 5, paragraph 4, all buildings shall be set back at least 300 feet from the Rappahannock River. That's a building setback. On page 3, we talk about a 300-foot bank setback from the bank edge, a natural buffer. These are all different. This nomenclature, these terms aren't interchangeable. Building setback is one thing. A natural buffer is a completely other thing. If we could get some consistency on what you're looking for there, I think that would be helpful as you go forward. But for our purposes tonight, I think, as you know, you can see where this is going. I oppose it for all the same reasons I've heard down the line. Industrial use on the banks of the Rappahannock is a horrible idea. That is a resource for all of us and our future citizens as well. I would never approve of expanding the comprehensive plan or putting an industrial use on the Rappahannock River. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze. Mr. Williams?
Sure, yeah, EPA issues, regulations, and all of that is important, very important for me. So I definitely would have to see a solid plan in place to put something that close to a river. And right now I couldn't think of anything that I would approve, so.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kendrick?
No additional comments.
Mr. Watkins? All right. Gentlemen, this is the last case we have in front of us tonight. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we forward case number 22-07-Z09, request by Birchwood Power Partners LP on behalf of the current owner, Maury Company LP, to rezone with tax map 21, parcel 43, to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation for denial.
Motion's been made.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Kendrick, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. That concludes our review of the Birchwood rezoning applications for this evening. On to the next item on the agenda, which is old business, of which we have none. New business, we have none. Director's report, there is none this evening. Other business, as far as I know, there's none. Last item on the agenda is adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Thank you all. Can we have a moment?